Hey kids, it's Mrs. Runs here with Objective 10 notes. If you are a little lost, a little confused, need a little help, if you were absent, this video is for you. Of course, as always, it's not a perfect lesson. It's not every little bit that we covered in our class. It's just the high points in case you need a little support from home. And I'll be sharing some contact information with you at the end if this is not sufficient for what you need. So this objective is to identify real and complex numbers through an introduction of this imaginary number. And so we started with this comic here that may not be funny to you until you understand this idea of imaginary numbers. This is an advanced standard, advanced objective, part of this standard 8EE2. But I include it because I think it's interesting and important too for you to know. So here we have a variety of expressions that look very similar, but they're just a tiny bit off. This is the square root of 81. We've been talking about square roots. The symbol on the outside, it looks like division, but it's not. It's a radical sign, and it indicates a square root. What number times itself gives you the radicand, the number on the inside? Well, 9 times 9 is 81. And we discussed that also negative 9 times itself is 81. But when the expression looks like this, we just assume that they are only intending for us to write the positive answer. Now, in some cases in which you will study in the future when you're studying quadratics, we need to keep in mind the positive and the negative. And that's what this little plus minus sign means. This means the positive and negative square root of 81. And so in this case, you'll do the square root of 81, which is 9, and then make the symbol positive and negative. Now let's talk about these two in the middle. There's a difference here. There's a negative on the outside and a negative on the inside. What this means is the negative square root of 81. I'm reading from the left to the right. The negative comes first, the square root of 81. Or what that means is you could say negative 1 times the square root of 81. Square root of 81 is 9, then make it negative, and there you go. This means the square root symbol happens first of negative 81 is the radicand, the thing on the inside. So what number times itself gives us a negative 81? And so we had this conversation, well, no number times itself will give us 81. A positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So no number times itself is ever going to be a negative value. So this is not possible. Or we can write n/p. And this is the beginning of the discussion on imaginary numbers. This is an imaginary number, or I. And someday, if you're really interested in math, you can study that in more detail, but that's about as far as we go in 8th grade pre-algebra. So when you are doing these practice questions here, it's really important that you look carefully at these subtle differences in the placement of the signs. So for example, when I have a positive negative sign out front, whatever the answer is, it needs the plus minus in the solution. There's no button, to my knowledge, on your calculator for this sign, and you don't need it. You can find just the square root of 529, which is 23. And then because it has the positive and negative in front, write the positive, negative behind. So the square root, the positive and negative square root of 324 is both positive and negative 18. The ones that are just no sign in front of them, because they're written only positively, then we assume that we can just write the positive answer. We know that negative 16 times negative 16 is also 256, but this expression isn't really asking for that. So the square root of 361 is 19. We won't write the negative as well because the sign isn't there. Now, this here must be negative 20 because this is asking what is the square root of 400 and that negative. Or what is the square root of 289? 17, but make it negative. And now we're left with these two, where the negative is on the inside of the radical. And remember again, we had that discussion that no number times itself, which is the idea of squaring a number, or finding its square root if you think of the reverse, is not possible. No number times itself will give us a negative number. Okay, so for your homework, you had something very, very similar to work through. First of all, this class had their holes punched on the wrong side. Make sure you're on the right homework side. Okay, so this is a variety of the same things. Just be careful. If there's a negative on the inside, remember that's not possible. If there's a positive, negative on the outside, make sure that you write that positive and negative in front of your answer. I won't tell you the answer. I hope you know that. This one, we don't have to write any sign in front. This one will be negative, whatever the answer is. And so you can chug along through with your calculator for that. Remember to find the square root of a number. You will use this button above the 7. So let's say that I'm looking for the square root of 361. I'll push this key here, 361 equals, and that's 19. Positive, negative, the square root of 19. Or sorry, positive, negative 19 is the square root of positive, negative 361. Then on the bottom, there's a matching activity, and it's twofold. So there's this matching, and then there's this matching, and this is the bank of solutions here. So if you're looking only at this matching, this is asking which of these are the solutions for here. So the positive and negative square root of 36 would be the positive and negative 6. And then you'll go through and match this up. And then we can cover this up. And this is asking, how do we say these expressions here? So the square root of 36, which of these is asking the square root of 36? Yeah, this one here. Okay. So hopefully that helps you get squared away. If you're absent, hopefully that helps you get caught up to what we are doing. If you have watched this and you're still stuck, please do not hesitate to contact me in the evening, and I'm happy to get back to you. Or of course, you know that I'm always here in the morning and in class and in homeroom and happy to help any way that I can. Thanks a bunch. Hope that helps, and we'll see you later.